Hi guys, welcome to the channel. This video is going to be the first in a series of videos that I'm making about color grading, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to use Affinity in this video. I'll be featuring Photoshop and DxO Photolab in other videos, but the gist of the series is what I want to cover is a process that gives us a repeatable workflow that we can use in multiple applications, and we're emphasizing, as ever, pre-visualization, and the way that we get there is to do the task of color grading instead of doing it haphazardly and pulling sliders about and hoping for the best. We're doing it in a structured way where we do color correction first in order to get the picture to a place where subsequent embellishments will not harm the picture. So if you imagine if you're working with a picture that's got a strong color cast, for example, and you don't correct that, when you go on to add adjustments later on, those adjustments will interact with that color cast, and you're never going to get to where you want to be without an awful lot of work. So the business of creating a good color balance and good luminosity is the first step in preparing the picture for subsequent grades. So we're going to look in this video about that preparation stage. We're using Affinity to do that. Okay, let's get into it. Here we are in Affinity. We're in the develop module, so this is the raw processing piece, and it's roughly the equivalent of Lightroom to Photoshop. So this is, or Camera Raw to Photoshop. What I've done is I've set the output to raw layer embedded, and so that I can revisit this. If I set it to pixel layer, then it's going to, any changes that I make here will be baked into the file. So I don't want that. I want to be able to come back and, because this is all swings and roundabouts, there's a constant iterative process going on here. So let's have a look at the picture first of all. A fairly routine picture. It was a very hot, dry day, but I wanted to capture this aqueduct before it gets knocked down by the builders that are putting in these enormous windmills. So let's first of all have a look at the clipping. So we've got lots of detail up here in the right, and that's the first thing that I want to do. So this is all about correction. So let's take this, and the easiest way to get rid of it is just to reduce the brightness here, and that you just want to take it to the point where it's gone. You don't really want to negatively affect the rest of the picture. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to knock my black point out a little bit, and that of course makes the picture a little bit more flat, but it's something that we can address later on. Okay, contrast, clarity, saturation, vibrance. I might have a little vibrance in here. Let's have a look. Put a little bit of vibrance. And am I happy with the white balance? Let's turn that on. Warm it up a little bit. Just check that, that's fine. Okay, so I think broadly that's enough to be getting on with. So what I want to do now is take this into the Pixel Studio, which is the equivalent of Photoshop. So we hit the develop button here. And now we can see we've got our layers palette. So what I want to do is to demonstrate three things. So our head is on the notion of corrections at the moment. We're not really looking to make this a sort of statement look and feel. We're simply trying to get the best quality base that we can then move on to adjusting the look and feel. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to demonstrate is the a color balance level. I know we've just set this, but I want to be more exact about it. So I put in the thing there, and what we'll see immediately here is that I've got more control. I've got tonal range of shadows, midtones and highlights, and I split that up into cyan red, magenta green, yellow and blue. So these are opposite colors on the color wheel. And so let's just have a look at this. So sky is looking, that's all going to be highlights. So I want to make the sky perhaps, you can see that change creeping in here. So we've got our sort of slight cyan and a little bit more blue in it, but not much. So that's my highlights. My midtones are all the yellows, oranges and darks. So probably want to increase the red a little, increase the green a little, and the yellows there. And my shadows, and we're looking at this area, and I'm going to raise this later, but I want to just have a quick, so that, just drop a little bit of magenta in there. Okay, and my blend mode at the moment is set to normal, and what I'd like to do is to set it to color. Okay, so that's one step that we can do. Now let's turn that off for a moment. So we're looking to achieve more or less the same thing, but we want to find out which one is more effective. So let's go and have a curves layer. Right, now the first thing that I'm going to say here is that if we go into curves, we're in our master, we're in normal. Let's just have a look at the effect here. So if we pull this down, we're getting more saturation, in fact, in the darks, and the opposite will happen here. We're getting less saturated, more saturated. Okay, so this isn't strictly adjusting luminosity, it's more a mixture of luminosity and color. So what I want to do is to change the blend mode, and I'm going to put this again into color mode. All right, and now what I'm going to do is do pretty much the same sort of thing that I did before. So in my shadows, I'm going to slightly boost the red. In the sky, I want to take the red out, so we've still got this sort of blueness in the sky. Quick look at the green. Probably want green in the mid-tones a little, but really not much. I think actually we're going to leave the greens alone. And blue, we want our highlights. Now let's have a look at the effect of this. So there we're getting more blue, unacceptably blue. take it out and you're getting more green. So again, it's just a little tweak. Okay, and I would leave that there. So what I'm going to do before I get too carried away here is rename this. And this is color adjustment curve. Can't spell right, but let's just leave it at that. Okay, and now what I want to do is add another curves layer, and I'm going to make this one in luminosity mode. Okay, so what we should be doing here is affecting the light without the color. So if we look at this, that is much better. You can see there's still a little bit going on, but it's largely a lot better than it was before in that it's affecting the light and not the color. Okay, so let's again go into this and we'll do our reds. And we can make that slightly richer. And okay, that's fine. Your greens. Now let's have a look at the effect of this. I'm going to lighten that up a little and leave that as is. Look at the blue, and it's in the highlights. Not really having a massive amount of effect. But I quite like the skies sort of slightly washed out, so it's less distracting. All right, so we'll leave that there. Okay, now and turn those off. So the trick here is not to use all of these things. The trick is to use the one that is most suited to get the result you want. So let's have a look at levels. We're on the levels, we're on the master. Press Option and now move the slider until you start to see the blue creeping in. Okay, that one I think is going to be, yeah, pretty much immediate. All right, now we can do the individual channels. There's our reds coming in. All right, so let's have a look at our greens. There's the greens coming in, so just leave that there. And blue. There's our blues. Now gamma is going to boost effectively the mid-tones. They're looking quite green there. Okay, so taking that away, we've now got three different ways of effectively, I'm going to put these two curves into a group so that we can turn them on and off easily. So all right, so turning everything off. First off is our color balance adjustment. Okay, so that's pretty vanilla, straight out the box, quite a nice little improvement. Curves, let's just, okay, so with, no, without, with. Okay, so that's quite an improvement. Take that away. Levels, with, without. Okay, so the way this has gone, I think the levels one is not really doing much in the way of improvement. I think the curves one, and I've always personally preferred working with curves, but perhaps it's because I do a lot of my work with curves and I can get the better result more easily. But the other ones, levels is often a good way to increase the contrast in your picture and to bring the richness out. Okay, so, and the color balance is, you're going to need to do that in any case. I think for me, I would go with the curves group here. Alright, so that's got the picture to a place where I think I can start building on it. It's the colour balance is correct, and the gotcha here is that if you get your colour balance wrong, or if there's a cast in the picture, you're going to have real problems later on, because you're, in building and embellishing, enhancing something that is wrong to begin with, you're going to create more problems, and you're going to find yourself chasing your tail endlessly trying to correct the problems. So the approach here is correct and then move on, correct and build. So in the next video we're going to be doing the build portion. Now what I normally do when I've done all this, I'm going to make my decision here. I'll take the levels adjustment out. There seems to be a stray color correction one there. Okay, and what I would do is group these, this is just housekeeping really, and I'll call those color corrections. Okay, so that's as far as I want to go with this video. I think that we've got a decent platform now to work on. We're going to be following this up with a video about the pre-visualization process, how we can aid that by looking and analyzing at color grades from cinema, and also at the work of the old master painters who, when you examine the work closely and compare it to your actual experience of the landscape, you're talking about two very different things. And because the painters of the old days had to really work their pigments, they were very, very deliberate about their colours. This was not modern digital convenience. This was a whole process of mixing and matching pigments to create a colour that you could use in a painting in the first place. So old masters and classical painters are a really good source of colour palettes for getting a certain look and feel. So we're going to be looking at or beginning that part of the process next week. I hope you can join me in that. If this video has been useful, give us a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye now.